Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a grounded 2022 starter guide. The game does a fairly decent job of guiding you in the early stages, but I still think there's some pointers you need to know. With over 15 major updates to Grounded in the last year and a half, lots has changed. So if you're a returning player or you're brand new and trying it for the first time, hopefully my little tips to get you started will help you along the way. So if they do, leave a like, make sure to subscribe for the best in grounded content, survival and crafting stuff, and let's go. One of the biggest changes is simply not just having a creative mode, but custom mode. If you choose a custom game mode, you can switch it and make it as hard or as easy as you want. Building integrity, so you can build crazy things. Quests turned off if you just want to run around and survive. Take no player damage or friendly fire, or make your pets stay alive forever. So it's definitely worth taking a look at the custom game modes. But be warned, once you've set a custom game mode, at the moment you can't go back and edit any of the settings. So if you do decide to have player damage off, you won't be able to change that on that world unless the devs introduce an update in the future. Whatever settings you create now will be locked for that game. Now more so than ever, choose your base locations wisely. In fact, you want to aim to have a base in the early days as close to a field station as possible. That's because you're going to be scanning stuff. Even more importantly, you're going to get science points for every single item that you scan. But you've also got the brain power system, which is fairly recent. It basically shows you what items you can then go ahead and craft a bit easier, as sometimes in the past in Grounded you wouldn't know that you could craft or make certain stuff until you went and killed a whole bunch of different bugs or have the resources for them. So very obvious, but yeah, make sure you build somewhere pretty close, as you're going to be going back and forth and utilising it as much as possible. Always check to see if there's any items you can scan, and always go back and forth between the field stations if you've got a whole ton of stuff that you want to scan. I personally think it's not worth actually building a base until you're really sure and you've got a good few days in the game. So go ahead and set up a little campfire, a little lean-to, maybe somewhere a bit safe if you can, close to the spawn spot. But otherwise, yeah, bide your time, get some upgrades and resources, and then think about where you really want to go and set a base up, as some places can be more dangerous than others. There's been at least 7 brand new biomes added to the game, as well as a whole bunch that have been revamped and fleshed out a lot more. Danger awaits in any of these spots, but for sure where you spawn is probably going to be some of the safest spots to find. So stake a place out, explore all around it, and make sure you're not right in the path of a wolf spider. For now, up high is still a good spot, anywhere on the fence post, and I probably will do a top base locations in my opinion video very soon. There's a whole bunch of new armors were added in its development so far for Grounded, but some of the original ones are still some of the best in the early stages, for at least making sure that you don't need to eat and drink as much, and that's the Clover Hood set. It doesn't give you any real protection, but it will mean that you don't need to eat or drink as much. It is one of the easiest ones to make, so don't pass up on it because it doesn't look as good as the others. You do get bonuses for having all 3 pieces of an armor set, but I wouldn't worry about that too much in the early days. Just make sure you've got some sort of armor, so craft what you can and then carry on working towards getting the full sets. There's not real much point in skipping any of the armor sets, but certainly some resources are going to be needed for other things. So I would go for definitely the Clover set, as it's so cheap. Then after that I would aim for either the Oak or the Grub set first. Just be careful when digging out for grubs, because as you just saw, there's plenty of horrendous larvae in different places now. And while it might not be a big deal dying, the actual damage done to your armors is a bit more significant, as you're going to have to repair probably a little bit more. There was a big nerf to exactly how long the armors last or how much quartzite you need to repair and stuff. So yeah, you definitely got to be a bit more cautious unless you want to spend a lot of time repairing your armors and reclaiming all your bags. Armors are set in different categories now as well, light, medium and heavy. The heavy armor in terms of a oak armor will give you maximum health, but it is going to be a little bit more draining on your stamina, or you won't regenerate your stamina as quickly. Heavy armor adds a delay to the regeneration. Medium armor pretty much keeps it just normal, and then light armor actually increases it so that you regenerate your stamina quicker, which is super useful if you're someone that likes to go combat mad and run around and dance around enemies. As said as well, you do get a set bonus whenever you wear all 3 pieces that are the same, but use what your resources can give you and always wear whatever you can if you're going out, if you don't necessarily have all the pieces for a full set. Where possible, also make sure you've got plenty of bandages on you. Even the smallest creatures can do a fair amount of damage if you've got no armour or no decent weapons. Your axe is probably going to be the weapon you'll use for quite a while. But again, another more recent change is that you can go ahead and upgrade your weapons now. You can actually make them a bit better. So it's not simply just a case of moving on to the next one. If you really like using certain things, then you can go ahead and make them more powerful. And some creatures, they actually take more damage still from some of the most basic stuff, or even just a normal axe. Although to do so, you're still going to need to go to Burgle, one of the NPCs you meet inside the oak tree, and the game will direct you there, to go ahead and swap over some raw science, and he'll give you the ability to go ahead and buy the smithing station or any of the other stuff that takes your fancy. But it should be the smithing station that you aim for first. But let's not get ahead too much, let's actually go and think about making an outpost once we've returned power. Now if you're a bit of a pro player, you can head to this location where you've got the mites chewing on the cables and run straight into the cave in the dark. Otherwise you probably are going to need to make a torch. It does get extremely dark, but if you do make a run all the way to the end, you will find there are some glowing stalks. Now these can also be used to make torches. In fact, they're a cheaper and quicker way to make them, although they don't last as long. So if you're feeling really brave, you've got plenty of bandages and maybe you've made some armour, then go ahead and take out the mites that are blocking and guarding this cave and get rid of the ones that are chewing on the wire and grab all the stalks. Otherwise, run in here, get the stalks, run out, make some torches and then come back when you're a bit more prepared. But I would definitely say bring a actual hammer with you so you can break open the quartzite and go and explore and get even more. Quartzite is a much needed resource now because it's useful for upgrading all your weapons. In fact, you're going to need a whole ton of it, hundreds and hundreds, to carry on upgrading all the different weapons in Grounded. And so this is something I haven't seen mentioned in other starter guides or older ones. You are going to need to get as much quartzite in early days as possible. Never pass up the opportunity to grab some. Harvesting and gathering certain resources is a bit easier and quicker now because you do have a 3-tier combo system. Pretty much your first attack will do a small amount of damage, the second attack does more, and the third does the biggest amount. So you can now swing hammers 3 times and it'll do a huge amount of damage. That applies to all weapons, so that's another crucial change most recently is combat to make sure that you get the third hit in. It's better to keep your stamina up as much as possible so you can swing at least 3 times. Some classic tips now: if a creature doesn't immediately attack you when you see it, you go ahead and make sure you attack it. You need to get as many bug pieces as possible to help you scan, but also to feed yourself. But don't go cooking every single piece of meat that you manage to get. In fact, try and keep some of the weevil meat and the aphid meat, as you can make some pretty decent items with them. Namely the weevil shield and the aphid slippers, which get you to move around the map a little bit quicker. So save any of them particular meats for them, but once you've crafted them, you can go ahead and eat what you want. Otherwise, stick to grub meat and possibly maybe gnat meat, as they're going to be the ones that you won't necessarily need for anything else other than spoiled meat later on to help some of your crops grow. The early game in terms of progress still hasn't changed much. You still need to divert power to this board, and you have to go and stop the mites from eating the cables and then destroy the grass leaves to turn it all on. Once that's done, I do recommend you get to the oak tree as quickly as possible to go and talk to Burgle and get quests that will generate XP in terms of raw science. You're going to need so much more raw science than you have previously to unlock so much more that the game has to offer. But for sure, you want to be aiming to get at least a campsite set up so you can cook some food and get a lean-to going to save your progress and keep the respawn point. And like I said, just make sure it's super close to some sort of field station. You do occasionally get wolf spiders that come crawling through this area, but where I just set mine up is usually a good safe spot. Another great new addition is that you can sleep any time on the lean-tos. Previously you could only sleep at 8 PM at night and then any time after, but now you can sleep, but there will be a cooldown, so it will tell you exactly when you wake up, but you will have to wait again before you can use it. And I guess the last thing to say before you head off to the oak tree, make sure you've got your hammer with you, and this is probably the weapon you're going to be using on the Tase T guards, as they are more resistant to anything stabbing. So that means your spears, maybe your axe would be okay, but I definitely suggest making sure you've got your pebblet hammer with you. Like a nub, I was using my bow and arrow, and you can see you need a lot of shots to actually do damage against them with it. But it does mean that you're kept more at range, so if you really are having a difficult time with these guys, even on the normal difficulty they can be pretty tough without decent armour, then yeah, make sure you bring a hammer to the fight. You'll come across these all over the place, and sometimes you might want to just run past, but don't forget they also drop raw science. The game does guide you towards the oak tree, so I shouldn't really need to explain the steps to get there, and it's not too far away. But once you are there, make sure that you check in with the quests in working for Burgle. You might not get as much raw science as you previously used to, and some of the quests that you get at the beginning definitely won't involve you going to any of the dungeons straight away. They'd kind of tease you and lead you into it a little bit, unless you're really super lucky and it's generated one that says go to the Haze Laboratory or the Hedge. If one of them does pop up in the early stages, actually abandon it, because you're probably not going to be going to them places for a few days if you're fairly new to the game, and so there's a lot more quests to do that are easier or quicker or generate more science points for you. But once they do come up and you feel ready, go and complete them, as they offer the biggest amount of raw science. They might not be easy, but certainly if you're looking for big amounts, then that's the way to go and get them. Otherwise, keep doing some of the other missions, scan every resource that you can, and look out for the drops that you get, as long as you don't get eaten by a spider. You should be aiming to go to the oak tree maybe on sort of day 2, day 3, and that's when you want to go there. Either pick up a few missions so that you can go and get the raw science needed for the smithy station, or explore the map a little bit and then build up enough. You need 2,500 for the smithy. Upgrading at least one weapon once will get you an extra 5% damage and durability, so you won't have to repair them as much. And if you can go all the way up, it's definitely more advised for something like your axe. Tier 2 tools and weapons you won't be able to get until you've killed quite a lot of the other bigger bugs in the yard. And as I said, this is a start guide. I will go over the more advanced details in a more medium towards endgame guide, talking about how you can apply different elemental effects like fresh damage or spicy damage. But for now, quartzite is your friend. Grab as much as you can. It really won't take long before you get munched on by bugs if you've not got the decent armor or decent weapons or got used to actually fighting them. So you want to keep them at range, and the best way to do that is by getting a bow as soon as possible. You're also going to need a ton of arrows, so make sure you strip any thistles that you come across. You do need 4 fuzz from a gnat to make the actual sprig bow, but you should find them round the starting point where you have to turn on the power. Otherwise, head to where you see the water going around, and you should hopefully be able to find plenty of gnats there. It really is crucial to have a bow and arrow to keep some of the bigger and more deadly creatures away from you, and hopefully get them the kills you need to get the bug parts. Something else to bear in mind, again fairly new in the last only maybe 4 or 5 months, is the addition of milk molars or mega milks. These are tooth-shaped consumables that you can break open with a tier 2 hammer. They're scattered all around the yard, and they will give you the opportunity to go ahead and get skill increases. You can boost your health, your stamina, the amount of food and water you consume, or the mutations you can have. Otherwise, the mega milks, these also give you boosts in terms of carrying more resources, arrows, or consumable stacks. You can't really make use of these obviously until you get that tier 2 hammer, so that's why that is one of the biggest priorities. Not necessarily a starter tip or starter item, but just worth explaining if you played Grand for the first time and wondering exactly how to break open them. You definitely need that tier 2 hammer, and you can only craft it by getting stink bug parts, berry leather, and boiling glands. And the boiling glands you get from the bombardier beetles. And just the last few things to say, you may have noticed there is a resource actual scanner now. Well, you need to actually get the power on at the Hedge Laboratory. Once you restore power there, and again you'll be directed there by a quest eventually, then it will turn on all the resource scanners in all the field stations. And it means that you can now pinpoint any resource that you've already picked up. So you find a resource, you scan it, give it to the resource scanner, and you'll be able to find out exactly where to go and get more. So this is super useful for finding more quartzite and lots of bug parts. If you do manage to scan one bug part, it will show you the last location of a previous bug. So obviously they can move, but resources like weed stems or burr weeds, they're going to stay there exactly where they are. The last few updates have really added a whole bunch of systems to the game that you may not have heard or thought about since you played Grounded last. So it's definitely worth checking out. Grounded is better than it's ever been, and we've only got a few months to go until its full release. In fact, we're predicting about 6 months before it maybe comes out in August or September as a full release game. So I still think it's worth jumping in now. The price is going to be cheaper until then. And with all the recent additions, it fleshes out the game massively. You can create and customize the game mode to whatever way you want it to make it easier or harder. Grounded's got a lot going for it. If you still need more help, go and check out my Let's Play videos. I'm doing a fresh, brand new Let's Play right now. I've got 4 episodes up already, and the plan is to get to 100 days. I did 140 grounded videos on my main survival channel, JADE-PG, loads of different guides, so some of them still apply, but look out for all brand new fresh ones for 2022 on this channel, JCraft, and big coverage of grounded coming up all the way through to its full release and beyond. Until next time, rat bags, I'll catch you later.